Today's guest is a full-on creative force. We are joined by the one and only Daniella Jordan Villaveches, illustrator.
It's just too
Was
hard,
that better?
No, it's too
gonna
long and too complicated. Don't worry about it. Yeah.
How about we're joined by the one and only Daniella?
I love it. Yeah.
I have massacred pronouncing your last name, so I'm just gonna say Daniella for now, even though I love the way
Perfect.
you
Yeah.
say it. So you're an illustrator, you're a design director, art magician, color sorceress, and all-around visual superstar. Your work is so joyful, vibrant, it's so full of life. And basically, I just want to climb inside it and live there. Straight.
I think I want to do that too. And that's part of why I make the things I make too.
Daniella has designed everything from dreamy illustrations to bold branding to retail magic you've probably seen out in the world and screamed, "Oh my God, who made this?" It was Daniella. If you saw it and it looked like hers, it was her. So I first met you, Daniella, when you freelanced for Target's Latino Heritage Month collection. Gosh, 4 or 5 years ago now.
Yeah.
Honestly, it was love at first sight when I saw your work. Your work was just that good. I pulled you into other projects mostly because you're just so amazing, but also because I just was like, I cannot let her go. I have to figure out a
Oh
way
my
to keep
God.
working with her.
Thank you. Little tear emoji, but like happy tear emoji from saying that. Thank you so much.
Happy tear
So
emojis.
we are so excited to have you on the cast to talk about your creative journey, making art that actually pays, and how you keep it
Yeah.
real, colorful, and totally authentic every step of the way. So welcome to She Makes Art from the Money, the brilliant, the bold, the beautifully illustrated Daniella.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here, guys.
Daniella, I have so many questions for you, but I'd just love to hear your origin story. Like, where did you start from? Did you go to art school? Did you just learn on your own?
Well, I can't remember the time when I wasn't drawing all the time or just kind of like something creative as an outlet. So I would say there was never any kind of choice for me of careers that didn't involve something that would be drawing, painting, design. I wasn't sure where to begin, but I just knew that that was something I had to do. Didn't really see any other way, and I still don't think I would if I had to start over again, even though the world has changed so much. So I I was in a really rigid school in Colombia because that's where I'm from. And as I was there in school, we never kind of were encouraged to pursue that at all. So I was kind of struggling with academics, wasn't doing too great. And my dad lived in Florida. So for the last 2 years of high school, I moved there with my dad because my mom was kind of changing her life and doing other things. And I was like, I'd like to live with him. And because my school in Colombia was so good, all of my academic requirements were pretty much met. So I was just left to pursue a lot of art. And that's where I really was like, oh my God, I can actually do this and it's going to be okay. I feel like that really prepared me to have a real portfolio to show art schools when I was applying because I had a notion of like that could be cool, but I just had never kind of put any kind of real effort into it. And being in Florida for the past like the 2 years before graduating high school just let me go for it like crazy. So I'd be in the art room all the time, learning so much, kind of like inspired by so many amazing people too. And then the time to go to school came and I applied to a bunch of different ones, but ultimately I knew I wanted to go to school in Toronto. So I went to OCAD, which is Ontario College of Art and Design, and there just kind of like had the best time.
I always find that art can serve a lot of different purposes. It could be, because you love doing it, or, it's a way to propel in school. Whether you do it for your career or just for fun, especially with kids in high school. Some may not go into the art field, but it really kind of helps them graduate and gets them to enjoy their time in school. I know for me, I hated high school, so I was very happy to have art as a backup.
Yeah.
You're our first OCAD graduate or OCAD student. I actually don't know much about OCAD. Can you say more about the application process? Was it difficult to go to a school outside of the US?
No, because I had family in Canada. So I actually applied to a few art schools in the United States and I applied there. And it was the first one I heard back from and the one that I wanted to go to the most, even though I'd never been to that city. I just really liked the program. And also, one key thing is that tuition was abysmally cheaper, which is so crazy to think about. So it was just like there was no comparison almost. So what I was able to pay to go there and live in Toronto just kind of freed me from any kind of debt that I would have probably been in had I not gone to school there. And then what I tell everyone is I don't think a lot of people know about it because most people are in the same kind of like American art school system. So whether it be RISD or Pratt or Parsons or like Micah or something else. I think that you kind of know your people. But once I graduated, I ended up in the same internships as everyone else and in the same kind of trajectory. Like I've also had some corporate jobs where, again, I've sat next to alums from all these other schools. So it ended up working okay for me in that sense.
Yeah.
That's the reality of like art schools are so expensive in the US. So good for you for finding a path that was actually reasonable because it's not reasonable for most.
I didn't know what I was going to do, but because my dad's an American citizen, I had a green card and I was like, maybe I'll try there. Seems like there's more happening, more job opportunities. So I moved to New York with like $2,000, didn't know anyone there, and then started kind of trying to figure out what to do in New York City.
What was your major?
I went to school for printmaking.
Printmaking. And did you printmaking when you graduated, or did you look for other things that were based?
Wanted to do textiles
Okay.
and a lot of print design. So more kind of like illustration focused textile work. So kind of more apparel based things or even just like fabric companies and things like that. So that's the kind of jobs I started looking for when I moved to New York because I loved printmaking and I had so much fun at school, but realized I didn't want to be a fine artist. I didn't want to have to be just kind of always thinking about printing presses or printing processes and things like that. So I thought maybe what I can do will translate well into just kind of print design. Had to learn basically from scratch because there was no overlap.
So what are some things you had to learn in order to make your prints more available for the industry? And, did you have any mentors at your jobs?
Yeah, I started looking for internships because I was just fresh out of school and didn't really know how to do it. So I think I had a really kooky portfolio at the time, maybe too many colors, too out there, but somebody saw that there could be potential there. And she actually mentored me a lot in taming that and really understanding industry needs. And even today, when I hear art directors talk to me about big projects for very standard retail companies, I hear her voice too because I'm like, okay, this is exactly what she would have said to do to make something that everybody's gonna love and not just like a little niche thing that's just not gonna translate well into a print that could be used for home goods or apparel.
Tell us more about so the post school story, kind of are getting your bearings. What are the next big jobs or big opportunities you have? And you don't have to tell us all the names if you don't want to or but we really love to hear about people's story and their career story after school.
Well, I think it took me a long time to get kind of situated. It wasn't that easy at first. I feel like I I took jobs that didn't pay great, so I always had to struggle with that. But I was learning a lot and I think I didn't go to grad school, but I kind of paid for it, not getting paid a lot, but learning so much. And and then after I worked as a print designer for a textile company. And then after that I started working more in-house for different apparel companies and did that for a bit. It was okay. I learned a lot and it was fun to just kind of dip my toes into that. But then I thought, I don't know why, or like why nobody said this is a little too much for you to do right now. I wanted to start a clothing company. because I love designing prints and I thought, well, I want to see those prints out there in apparel. And I tried doing that for about 2 years. And while I was doing that, I started freelancing a little bit here and there, more just solely on illustration based projects. But because I had past apparel experience, I ended up landing a job that kind of took all of that and made it into a 9 to 5. So it took a little while, but I finally kind of got situated. And I think that was also a great learning experience for me.
I wanted to ask you just like more like the nitty gritty because we might have some people on here who are trying to freelance and want to know
Yeah.
how to even get a freelance job. Like, what did you use?
I got them through working a ton on my own stuff in my own time. So I would go to work and do exactly what I was told, in my hand, still trying to make it as me as possible, but very much understanding the needs of the brand I was working for. But then I would go home and draw like crazy and try to post that online and try to kind of have conversations about what was going on. And I think the biggest thing that happened was that while I was still working for other companies and trying to do more freelance things, I started having more conversations about what was happening socially. And because of that, there was a good mix of people liking my work because it's pretty and people liking my work because it had something to say. And I'd say that kind of happened in 2020, and I haven't had to this day, reach out to anyone freelance because I kind of just, have people come to me for my work. But had it not been for me kind of talking about things I cared about on my own and working hard to make it really pretty, accessible, but also thought provoking without it being too controversial, I don't think I would have had the opportunities that I've had since then.
I mean, it's why I was drawn to you because it was very, you're consistent, you have a really distinct hand, and it's very appealing. Like you said, it's not too controversial. Working for a company that isn't mass, you
Yeah.
really were able to be an artist that we could rely on that could create things that we could use for almost anything we were working on. So I really understand what you mean and how you worked to really be that unique but still accessible hand and brand.
Love that. And I think, yeah, kind of just piggybacking on all of that, I think it's important to always, inject a little bit of you in whatever you do. So I try to work hard at my 9 to 5s and I try to work hard on like keeping more, like I wanted to get more illustration jobs and I worked really hard on that on the site too, but always keeping in mind like it has to connect visually in a way. I don't want it to just be this is what I do here and this is what I do there. It all has to somehow connect with like your point of view. Otherwise, I don't know if it's going to be so easy for people to notice you, if you will, if you just kind of like throw things out there that might not be so connected. Just to kind
Well,
of tie it back to like how do people even begin to think about it? Maybe think about it in a way that like what are you bringing to the table that's a little bit more unique and more something that you feel really happy with.
so
Okay.
you've talked about you're bringing you to the art that you do, and so many artists, their identity or their personality is really a part of the art that they do, and they're intertwined. How has your cultural background or your lived experience shaped any of the work that you do or the work that you want to do?
Well, I was born in Colombia, but I've also lived outside of Colombia a lot, so I would say that half of it is just fully just being a person from Colombia, and then half of it has to do with the fact that I lived a little bit of time in Europe. I've lived a little bit of time in Florida, which is very different from other parts of the States. I've lived a little bit of time in Canada. So through the networks and friendships and things I've learned, I think I just kind of try to take it all in, but at the same time, I'll never stop being Colombian. So that's always ingrained in me. But at the same time, I've had the privilege to soak up things from completely different cultures. And I think that's why it's so easy for me to work in a lot of Latino and Latin heritage projects. But at the same time, I can do things that maybe could be more mass appeal because they can just be something that anyone else can understand, whether you're from a Latin country or Latin roots or not. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. And I think it's because I'm kind of just part of Colombian diaspora, but also kind of love learning from anyone else that could teach me something else, whether they be, you know, from North America or Europe or anywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, you worked on a Diwali project for us, and that's definitely the other side of the globe, so it doesn't
Yeah,
necessarily mean you're limited at all in what you do, which
yeah,
is fun.
You can sense different cultures, you can kind of pick up on things because of that, you might have a more of a unique take on things because you are so in tune with your own culture as well.
So you've given us an awesome overview of your education, how you grew up, your background, and some of your early career notes. We also like to get some dirt. We like to get some, like, fun stories
yeah.
into what have been some of your favorite projects, maybe one that's been the most challenging and why, so our listeners can kind of learn from those experiences as well, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say some projects are really ugly and they're not even kind of worth talking about because I feel like after 7 or 10 or 15 rounds of revisions, it just never kind of comes together. But I think some of the best projects that I've had are because people come to me for what I can offer. So the most fun ones are the ones where people are like, "We like what you did here. Can you help us in a way that makes sense for us?" So I think Target was obviously one of the most fun, most fulfilling ones, and I just
Yeah,
have never seen anything in that scale before, you know, it was just so crazy to see in every store and so many people talking about it and sharing. It was like I saved I took screenshots because some random people would just message me being like, "I love this shirt," or like, "My dog is wearing this. I bought this mug for my teacher," and all of those things are just they were life-changing, they were amazing, but I've also really had fun working with a wine company out of Toronto too, just working on their wine labels and some of their other design ephemera. That's been really fun, and then sometimes even projects that aren't, like, as big, but just kind of, like, make an impact on someone's life are really fun too. Even if it's just somebody commissioning a portrait for their mom or something, you know?
that's super cool. I mean, you may say what you say about Target. There's one thing I really did appreciate is that especially for Hispanic Heritage Month, there was a place to buy things to celebrate it, and I think before that, there wasn't a place. I bought a shirt for my daughter that said "Jefa, Jefa, Jefa," and there's things that sometimes stuff I couldn't find available just as a walk-in store.
Yeah.
So thanks for being a part of that.
You haven't talked necessarily about some of the more specific roles you've had, but I remember at one point you were working, like you said, the 9 to 5, and then you kind of decided to make a change and pivot. So a lot of creative people do that where they really want to invest in their work, but can you talk about that choice? Because, she makes art for the money. And so the money part drives a lot of people's decision making. So I don't know if that impacted you or if there were other reasons why you decided to make a pivot.
You're in for a treat. I don't know if it's
Okay.
the
Give
story
us the
people
treat.
wanna hear. So I had a 9 to 5, and even though it was great, my husband has always made more money than me. He's 8 years older than me. So 8 years career-wise is a long time. If you do things right, you're gonna be a lot more successful 8 years from now. So he's already got that. He's more successful, he makes more money, but I was doing fine, and I had so many amazing freelance projects that started coming up while I had my 9 to 5. At the time, I had so many freelance projects that I thought, let's try and see how much runway I have. So I thought, okay, I'm going to take my chance. Now is the time. We'll figure it out. Because again, I had had so many amazing freelance opportunities while I was still working my 9 to 5 that I was like, I think I can do it. The money's kind of adding up in a way that I can shift. And then I did that in September of 2022 and then had runway for the whole year, which is pretty good. January, February, March. Okay, things are good. Definitely not the same amount of money, but I can still provide. And then from March 2023 until November, I had 2 projects, and
Okay.
that was so scary to me. So, I definitely should have maybe calculated a lengthier runway, or I don't know, it just seemed like everything dried up, and then it
Uh,
kinda started picking back up again, and luckily, I haven't had any of those crazy dry spells, but as a freelancer, you do always have to consider that, and it's terrifying. It was a long time to not have anything, so even though, like, I'm not making as much as he is, still, like, that I'm still giving something, so it was at a time where my son was a lot younger, so part of what was okay for me was that I could be a lot more committed to his upbringing and spend more time with him, but at the same time, I was like, I love working. I really need to do that too. I love feeling like I'm doing something else to provide. That was just like a weird little blip in the industry where nobody needed anything, I
I
guess.
feel like
Yeah.
22, 23, there was like an economic dip.
Also, it was like the post-COVID high, where people made
Yeah,
sales in certain areas, and then it all kind of started to level out.
Appreciate that moment of just real honesty because that's what we want to share. We want to make sure people are hearing the realities of being a creative person and using that for your income. When you think about other advice or creative advice, is there any that you've been given that's just garbage or any that you've been given that's really great?
garbage one. I feel like not garbage, but sometimes people from very different industries try to solve creative problems in a very kind of like methodical way that doesn't really translate. So maybe just somebody from a different industry might just say, well, why don't you do a business plan? And I'm like, I never had to do that in my life. What are you talking about? I'm not selling a product per se, but I think people like want to treat it a lot like it's a business. And sometimes I'm like, we don't really need that right now. I just kind of need a really clear contract and I got to meet my
Ugh.
deadlines. And that's about it sometimes. So I think it's not garbage. It just doesn't translate to what I need. But good advice, I think, is just always just to keep going with stick with what you do. It will turn out okay at some point. Like if you work really hard on something, eventually somebody else is going to figure out how special it is. I think being constant and really honing things in has been key.
So, I mean, well, that's good that you haven't gotten a lot of garbage because I'm sure there's people out there that have been listening to garbage
I know. I have to
advice.
think about that for myself. Like, what kind of garbage advice have I gotten?
I don't know. I feel like maybe I just surround myself with mostly good people that don't end up talking too much garbage for any other reasons. So
Or maybe we just like let it go and just don't remember the garbage because we didn't pay attention to it.
I think when you're so protective as a creative of your work and of the vision and you work so hard in it and it's very personal in a way. And sometimes when other departments get involved and they start bringing ideas and it just doesn't make a lot of sense. Like I've definitely sat in meetings with people that just have different skill sets or are in entirely different departments and they say things that I'm just like, no, we cannot translate that. Sometimes trying to protect the creative vision at all costs. And I've had to learn it's not like when you're working in any environment, it's not just about the work itself, but like how you can work with people and really kind of make sure everyone's understood and doesn't feel like you're demeaning them or like belittling them at all. So I think that's something that maybe could be taken into account when you get really protective of your creative babies. You need to understand that like some people aren't coming at you just to attack it. It's just there's different things going on.
I wish they had a class in that for art school because we have critique, right? Where we critique everybody's, but there's no like tack class, like how to give critique, how to take it, how to take feedback, how to give feedback in a way that you can do it for work as opposed to just like, I think your drawing's ugly.
All right. Not get defensive.
Art schools offer that class to people, please, because I know I don't have it.
But I wanted to ask, when When we talk about your creative process, the actual doing of creating, whether it's from initial inspiration to final kind of handoff, what does that look like? Can you walk our listeners through, our viewers through those steps just to understand another artist's perspective on their process?
Yeah, I think it all depends on the client that you're working with. Some people know exactly what they want right off the bat and offer you almost like do this. And then some other people are like, I don't know where to begin. And sometimes the I don't know where to begin can have a lot of freedom because then you're like, here are 7 things. Let's see what works. And it works out great, but sometimes without a little bit of help, it's really daunting and there's a lot of missteps along the way. So I think the first round is always really scary when you send something through. When you have when you have a meeting with a team or some art directors or creative directors or something, and they give you some ideas or like they give you your task and then you send something in. It's a little nerve-wracking and you just never know what's gonna stick. But then luckily, like, there's been times I think there was a time when I worked with Tanya where I sent something in the first round and it was just like it wasn't what was expected. But the key part was that, like, her and her team were so amazing about, like, "Okay, this is a good start. We're just looking for something a lot closer to X, Y, and Z," and that was really helpful. So I think you can't get too discouraged with a bad first round. You gotta work really hard to make sure you get what's happening and make it work.
Have you ever gotten lucky and that first round is approved?
Yeah, or, like, even 90% of it, and then you just have to kind of maybe finish a couple things. And sometimes I've sent really loose sketches, and people prefer that or something finished.
And aside from the clients you've already had, how are you getting new clients? Are you basing it off a website or social media?
Mostly social media because it's so much easier to keep up with. But right now, I haven't had to do too much outreach because I'm at full capacity almost with my clients. So if you do really well with someone, they they tend to call you back because they know that you can meet their needs. I haven't had time to even think about it because I'm so busy with the work. So that's been really good.
But for someone new, like coming out of school or wanting to switch into freelance from a full-time job, would you recommend like starting a social media account and just posting every day your artwork?
Um, I don't think you necessarily need to start over. Maybe you just continue like your account that you have because also you already have a following base. Even if it's 5 people following you, those are 5 followers you already have. So maybe you don't need to start from scratch. For example, my Instagram used to be a lot more pictures of me and pictures of my life or like beautiful things that see out there. So I don't know, maybe I take a picture of this and post it, but now it's pretty much 99% just my work because it shifted. But people that liked it and people that love me for me continued following that. And that's where I've gotten most of the people that come for me are people that are people looking at my social media.
One of the fun things that we've done for some of our guests is ask them for a song. Can you talk to us about your song choice? Is that something you play when you're working? Why'd you pick what you picked?
I picked the song because it's by an Argentinian alt girl rock band from the 1980s. It's yeah, Estoy tocando fondo, which is kind of like I'm at rock bottom, but like they're still having fun even though they're singing about I'm at rock bottom because they're like all of this is going wrong, but like I got to do something about it. That's the message. It's just I find it so funny and cute and I love the girls that the women now, they're women, but when they were younger, they were performing as I thought that was really cute and fun.
What's the name of the band?
Las hijas de rock and roll.
La Hijas de Rock and Roll, the girls of rock, the daughters of rock and roll.
Yeah, I feel like I love music and I love sharing through community and it's fun, but when I'm working, I listen to people talk at me. if I'm working and I know I need to push hard, then love having that company of an audiobook or a podcast.
Well, there's going to be a new podcast for you to listen to in just a few
Yeah.
months. We do have another thing we do um, with our episodes with our guests, and we call it Game Time. And I think I sent you a little description, but it's kind of fun. So this game that we came up with is called Color Me This, and it's very much inspired by you and your beautiful color that you always infuse into your artwork because you're so good with color and it's just such a signature part of your style. And so basically we say a word or a phrase or give you a situation and you have to answer with a color and explain why. We'd love to hear you just talk more about your inspiration and style and that and like how color infuses into your personality. Sound good?
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay, so we're just talking about freelance life and there's ups and downs and all of that. So, what color is freelance chaos and why?
Yes, I'd say it's teal because teal can be beautiful when you use it correctly, but it can also be really ugly. I remember my high school colors were teal and black, and I hated that for so long because I did not have school spirit. I was in the art room. I didn't want to go to pep rallies, so I just associated that. But at the same time, when you combine teal with other colors, it can be amazing. I'd say that. Chaos can be great, and then chaos can be a disaster too. So, teal.
My back wall is teal, like a deep teal.
And
You
see
probably
how cool it looks? That's the cool version.
That's the
and if
cool
if
version.
my trims were black, it would be so dark and I cannot believe that's what your school colors were. That's so funny.
Yeah. It's probably like that bright teal, right? Like that real academic teal that's like almost a darker turquoise. That color drives me crazy. Like, if I had beef with a color, it would be that color. I hate
Well,
it.
then, but also, I think any color with the right colors next to it could be amazing in a palette. So, like the chaos of freelance.
If we're gonna talk about hating on colors, it's
You
like
hate
2000.
apple green?
I hate apple green. I was a designer in early 2000s. It was apple green and like light cerulean blue, like, that you'd wear like five different layers of tank tops on top of. And that apple
Yes.
green just drives me. It's just so ugly. Stop it.
Someone's just like crying in the background listening like, "Oh, my favorite
I
color."
know. Someone's like, they want that Avril Lavigne look and they want to wear apple green and black. And I'm going to tell them off on the street. Stop it. It's ugly. Straight to jail. I'm very passionate about this, obviously.
I feel like color is it's something that is you feel passion for because it drives your emotions, so it
Yeah.
definitely is worth the passion. Okay, I have another one. So, like, what color really, like, motivates you and feels like that represents your creativity?
Either like a hot pink or a tomatoey red. Yeah. I feel
Why
like
is that?
because even if the final palette's not gonna translate to that, or even if it has nothing to do with it, I feel like when I'm working with those, I just feel really happy and it gives me joy. So then it makes the project go faster. I'm working on a project now that all of my sketches had either hot pink or red. They're not going to have any of that in the final palette. But I think it helped the clients, it got them excited, and now we can move on with the palette that they chose. But it helped me kind of build that visual language. So that was like, I think that always helps too.
I thought for sure you were gonna say, like, a golden yellow because 'cause you're sporting it today and with your background.
No, I don't know why, like, this was unintentional, but no, I think, like a hot pink or a red always.
Those are really powerful colors.
When it's hot pink, it's like it's kind of bold, tough.
Yeah.
It's more powerful than like a soft pink, but for some reason I've been really into gold recently and like gold, I have this new paint that's like it kind of smells like one of those gold paint markers. It's a paint and I can't use it enough. I'm going to use it on everything because it's so shiny and I just feel like I'm applying money to my work,
So that
painting with money.
you're sniffing markers? Like, is this gonna be a
I
problem for
might be
you?
smelling it too much.
I just love this glue that I found.
It's
Yeah.
so good.
What'd
Yeah,
she
I
do?
probably should have a little better ventilation. That's actually a good point. Okay, so another one. I'm gonna change the subject. What color is the worst feedback you've ever gotten?
Gray, yeah. I feel like I'm not a neutral girly, obviously, you can see, and grays sometimes I just are tough, so when I think of that, I'll just say gray. Gray's a tough.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, it's just a bummer.
A bummer. If I see another gray kitchen, I'm gonna jump off a bridge.
Yeah, I just feel like I think you can be really sophisticated and classic with color too, and people tend to just go for gray and neutral instead of like it's a little scary, but it pays off when you get a little more colorful.
What is your favorite color, actually, just personally?
I'm gonna say what my son said. I like all of them. I like rainbow because I feel like when he said that, I was like, oh yes, a man after my own heart. I'm doing things well when he says I love all the colors like that.
I think my younger daughter's like that too. She says her favorite color is rainbow, and I was just like, okay, I like it. So thank you for playing Color Me This. That's our fun color game with Daniela. This podcast is really about dispelling the myth of you have to be a starving artist if you're going to do anything creative, and just really opening people's minds to the possibilities of design, that you can live, you could thrive, you can make money as an artist. And so if you actually were going to talk to one of those young women, young men out there, maybe a woman from Colombia who's thinking about art, loves art, but maybe doesn't know possibilities, what would you tell them to help them feel inspired to go on the creative path?
I would say don't take things too seriously. Art can be anything. Art can be in any kind of way you live your life. So you don't have to be in a museum or like think about just the classics or like the looking at the highest standard of things. I think you can be inspired by your community, by your surroundings, and find kind of the beauty in that. I'd say before you start thinking about art, start thinking about what you're surrounded with and how you can find beauty in that because there's beauty wherever you are. A good photographer is going to take a picture of a puddle and make it look amazing, you know?
That's great advice.
Do you have a favorite artist or illustrator that you look to or are inspired by?
No, but I really love it when I discover new people too. So I actually rely a lot on my community and on people that I like to show me new things because it's the work is never done when you're learning and getting inspired. Even though I just said museums are like this sort of intimidating spaces if you don't know where to start, I also really love them. Different kinds of museums. It doesn't just have to be an art museum. I really love decorative art museums, folk art museums, even kind of anthropology museums. So I think that's where I feed off of that the most. So I'm just happy to kind of take it all in.
I know, I'm a museum fan too. I grew up in Washington, D.C., and I don't know if you've ever had a chance to go there, but there's so many museums in DC, and most of them are free.
You can kind of take it all in a way that doesn't have to feel too stuffy. So sometimes if you visit a museum for 30 minutes and you're done, you can leave and you'll get something out of that too. So
Oh, lady, it's been amazing getting to see you again and having you on the show.
And what's your Instagram handle?
it's at libritos, like small books in Spanish.
Good. Well, Danielle, it's been a pleasure meeting you and talking to you and getting inspired by you. I feel like I want to go off and draw now. I have these moments where I'm just like, I come home from work, like, I don't want to draw, I don't want to paint. And then I realize these are the things I love to do. And I feel like just talking to you and seeing your colors and looking at your work, I just feel like I have a refreshed and new energy on it. So thank you so much for being on the podcast. She makes art for the money.
I definitely need to get some gold markers too. Get on that.
Let a fan before it becomes a problem. We're your hosts, Yvelle
And Tanya. And thank you, Daniela, for joining us once again. And see you soon.
See you soon. Bye. Thank you.